So we've had obviously the ICO, and then we had the IFO, the initial fork offering, which I think are nonsense, which I've talked about before. And now we have the IMO, which is not, in my opinion, but rather the initial mining offering. And it's a unique I have to give the guy credit, whoever came up with it, but the concept is that you raise funds through investors by selling the mining equipment, right? Or some pro rata interest in the mining equipment, and undoubtedly at some premium to what the mining equipment would otherwise cost. And then there's some pooled agreement by the promoters to run the mining operation, right, with these machines. And then the funds or the crypto would be distributed back to the person. Well, it's interesting because the question is, again, is it or is it not an offering of securities? And I think to some degree it isn't. I think if structured properly, what you're basically providing somebody is like a resale of mining equipment, and with some pro rata back end service contract or agreement, right? The manner in which you pay out in an initial mining offering is important, because I think if you look at how mining works, right, and how pro rata it works, where you have sort of the hockey stick, if you aren't paying back pro rata based on the hash rate that each person is buying into, then it starts to look like a pooled investment, right? Like a unit investment trust or something like that. And securities can take all sorts of forms, right? Just because you're technically buying, a machine like a mining rig, doesn't necessarily mean that you are, right? From like a regulatory perspective, operations like can be looked through, right? They can look to the actual intent as opposed to the actual substance, which on paper may be, hey, buy this mining rig and we'll run it for you, and then we'll just distribute the proceeds. And that's fine, and you can do that. But I think when you look at how mining works and how hash rate works and how mining, especially in different coins, work, and how the payoff works, there's really a difference between having one rig and 5 rigs, and it's not necessarily pro rata. So the reality is, I think the substance of it makes sense, but the payout and how the pool of crypto that is mined and how the fee is earned, right, has to be very specific. Else I could conceivably see regulators saying, well, fine, your buying was this $1,500 for a Litecoin rig or whatever the case may be, but in reality that $1,500 was a pay-in to a collective investment scheme, right? And while you could do that, you can do a unit investment trust, you can do a fund like that, you could do all that legally. If you do it and it's an offering of securities, then you have to follow Reg D. If you don't, then you violate the securities laws. So it's very possible. It's a cool model, I think. It's a really cool model to where you effectively, because people aren't tech savvy naturally, right? I mean, it's very difficult to sort of set these things up and understand where to buy it from. And if you have that expertise and you have the space and you can do this and run it properly, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a huge profitable idea, right? But it could look like a sort of thinly veiled securities offering or sort of an ICO of a different color if you don't do it properly. And I think the nuance to it is in how the distributions are made, right? The distributions have to be made in accordance with, in a direct correlation with hash rate that's purchased on those specific machines. When it's sort of pooled and then distributed in sort of an uneven fashion, then it starts to look more like an investment scheme. And China has even stepped up and tried to shut these down, claiming that the initial mining offering was just a thinly veiled ICO, which they'd already previously banned. And so, maybe ahead of their time a little bit, but overly combative and restrictive as usual, as you see in China. But, I've fielded some really unique, cool calls about some cool mining ideas, this sort of being one of them. And I think it works, can be wildly profitable, but you have to be it's all about optics. It's all about optics and disclosure. And I think here, the optics and disclosure of the mining offering has to really focus on how that distribution works. You can't look like a fund. You can't look like a partnership, right? If you get into partnership ideas and concepts like that, then you're giving people K1s and all these sort of things, which you may not be doing, and then you're violating tax laws in addition to securities laws and payment laws and the million other things that can get you find yourself up the creek. So the initial mining offering is upon us. Really cool idea, just has to be done right. I think it's better than the fork offering because there's actually something behind it, like actual money, which obviously helps. So if you're planning on it, give me a call, tracyfirm.com, and love to help you out. Adam Tracy. Talk to you later.